Alright, my friends, let's talk about Jesus. So, you decided you don't believe in Jesus anymore. You want to be secular. You want to be atheist. You want to seek a better alternative to Jesus. If you don't believe in Jesus, you're going to hell. So you've gotten over your hell fear. So what do? Is there an alternative to Jesus? Well, I think there is. And let's explore that for a moment. So let's ask Copilot, what are the parallels between Jesus and Apollonius of Tyana? And this is very interesting. And I want to share this with y'all. Because it sounds fun. Play the clip.
There are several interesting parallels between Jesus Christ and Apollonius of Tyana, a 1st century Greek philosopher and miracle worker. Here are some of the notable similarities. Divine birth. Both are said to have had divine announcements of their births. Jesus' birth was foretold by an angel to Mary, while Apollonius' mother reportedly had a vision from heaven. Miracles. Both figures are credited with performing miracles. Jesus healed the sick, cast out demons, and raised the dead. Similarly, Apollonius was known for healing, exorcising demons, and even raising the dead. Spiritual teachings. Both were itinerant preachers who gathered followers and taught spiritual and moral lessons. They emphasized living a virtuous life and had a significant impact on their followers. Opposition and trials. Both faced opposition from the authorities of their time. Jesus was tried and crucified by the Roman authorities, while Apollonius was also put on trial by Roman emperors, but managed to escape execution. Ascension. Both are said to have ascended to heaven after their deaths. Jesus' ascension is a central tenet of Christian belief, while Apollonius is also reported to have ascended to heaven, according to his followers. Despite these parallels, there are also significant differences in their teachings and the contexts in which they lived. Jesus' teachings were rooted in Jewish tradition and focused on the kingdom of God, while Apollonius' teachings were more aligned with Greek philosophy and mysticism. If you have any specific aspects you'd like to explore further, feel free to ask.
Okay, so that's kind of interesting. Let's ask another question. I take it that they were contemporaries? Let's find out. Because we got to find out.
Actually, Jesus and Apollonius of Tyana were not exact contemporaries, but their lives did overlap to some extent. Jesus is traditionally believed to have lived from around 4 BCE to 3033 CE, while Apollonius of Tyana is thought to have lived from approximately 15 CE to 100 CE. This means that Apollonius was born shortly after Jesus' crucifixion and lived during the early years of Christianity's spread. Despite this overlap, there is no historical evidence to suggest that they ever met or were directly aware of each other. If you have more questions about their lives or teachings, feel free to ask.
Fascinating. Was Paul or any of the followers of Jesus aware of Apollonius?
There is no historical evidence to suggest that Paul or any of the early followers of Jesus were aware of Apollonius of Tyana. The writings of Paul and other early Christian texts do not mention Apollonius, and similarly, the biography of Apollonius by Philostratus does not mention Jesus, Paul, or Christianity. The parallels between their lives and teachings have been noted by historians and scholars, but these similarities do not imply direct awareness or interaction. Instead, they reflect common themes and motifs in the religious and philosophical traditions of the time. If you're interested in exploring more about the historical context or specific teachings of these figures, feel free to ask.
Where and who wrote the myths of Apollonius?
The primary source of the myths and stories about Apollonius of Tyana is the Life of Apollonius, also known as Did Apollonius, written by the Greek sophist Philostratus. This biography was commissioned by Empress Julia Domna, the wife of Roman Emperor Septimius Severus, and was completed in the early 3rd century CE. Philostratus' work is a mix of historical facts, legends, and philosophical teachings, portraying Apollonius as a miracle worker and a wise philosopher. The biography includes numerous accounts of Apollonius' travels, teachings, and miraculous deeds, contributing significantly to his legendary status. If you're curious about specific aspects of his life or the content of Philostratus' work, feel free to ask.
In summary, what was the basis of Apollonius' teachings? I can assume, being a Greco-Roman, his teachings were more in line with Greek thinking, philosophy, rather than Jewish thinking, i.e. like Jesus. So, could I assume he didn't teach about original sin and sin itself?
You're correct in assuming that Apollonius of Tyana's teachings were more aligned with Greek philosophical traditions rather than Jewish religious concepts like original sin. Here are some key aspects of his teachings. Philosophical virtue. Apollonius emphasized living a virtuous life, drawing heavily from Pythagorean and Stoic philosophies. He advocated for self-discipline, wisdom, and moral integrity. Asceticism. He practiced and promoted asceticism, which involved a simple and disciplined lifestyle, abstaining from luxury and excess to achieve spiritual purity. Divine connection. Apollonius believed in a close connection between humans and the divine. He often spoke of the soul's immortality and the importance of aligning one's life with divine will. Healing and miracles. Like many philosophers of his time, Apollonius was also known for his healing abilities and performing miracles, which he attributed to his deep spiritual insight and connection with the divine. Universal wisdom. He traveled extensively, seeking wisdom from various cultures and traditions, and believed in the universality of truth and knowledge. Unlike the teachings of Jesus, Apollonius did not focus on concepts like original sin or salvation. His teachings were more in line with the Greek philosophical tradition, emphasizing personal virtue, wisdom, and a harmonious relationship with the divine. If you have more questions or want to delve deeper into any specific aspect, feel free to ask.
Was Apollonius a monotheist? Did he believe in one God, like traditional religion of Abraham? A.
Apollonius of Tyana's beliefs were somewhat complex and don't fit neatly into the category of monotheism as understood in the context of Abrahamic religions. However, he did teach about a supreme divine being. Here are some key points. Supreme being. Apollonius believed in a supreme God who was perfect and fundamentally separate from the universe. This God did not require sacrifices or offerings from humans. Philosophical approach. His conception of God was more aligned with Greek philosophical traditions, particularly Neo-Pythagoreanism, which emphasized the intellectual and transcendent nature of the divine. Rejection of sacrifices. Apollonius taught that prayers and sacrifices were unnecessary, as the divine did not need anything from humans. While he did believe in a supreme divine being, his teachings were more philosophical and mystical rather than religious in the traditional sense. This makes his beliefs distinct from the monotheism of Judaism, Christianity, or Islam. If you have more questions or want to explore another topic, feel free to ask.
Fascinating! Who were Apollonius' contemporaries, students, and mentors?
Apollonius of Tyana was influenced by various philosophical traditions and interacted with several notable figures of his time. Here are some key individuals related to his life. Mentors. Euxenus. Apollonius studied under Euxenus, a Pythagorean philosopher. Although Euxenus was not a strict practitioner of Pythagorean discipline, he introduced Apollonius to Pythagorean teachings. Contemporaries. Damis. A devoted follower and companion of Apollonius, Damis accompanied him on many of his travels and documented his teachings and miracles. Philostratus. While not a contemporary in the strictest sense, Philostratus wrote the Life of Apollonius in the early 3rd century CE, which is the primary source of information about Apollonius. Students. Damis. As mentioned, Damis was not only a companion, but also a student who recorded Apollonius' teachings and experiences. Apollonius' teachings were influenced by various philosophical schools, including Pythagoreanism, Stoicism, and Platonism. He was known for his extensive travels, during which he sought wisdom from different cultures and traditions. If you have more questions or want to explore another aspect of his life, feel free to ask.
Final question. Did Apollonius claim to be God or divine?
No, Apollonius of Tyana did not claim to be a divine figure like Jesus, nor did he claim to be God. His teachings and self-perception were more aligned with the role of a philosopher and a sage. Apollonius saw himself as a follower of Pythagorean philosophy and a seeker of wisdom, rather than a divine being or a messianic figure. While he was reputed to perform miracles and had a significant following, Apollonius did not position himself as a deity. His focus was on living a virtuous life, teaching philosophical principles, and maintaining a close connection with the divine, but not as a divine incarnation. If you have more questions or want to explore another topic, feel free to ask.
I know I said final question, but I can't help myself. What are some examples of his miracles?
Apollonius of Tyana was reputed to have performed numerous miracles, which contributed to his legendary status. Here are some notable examples. Healing the sick. Apollonius was known for his healing abilities. He reportedly cured various ailments and diseases through his knowledge of herbs and his spiritual insight. Exorcising demons. Similar to accounts of Jesus, Apollonius was said to have cast out demons from those who were possessed, restoring them to health and sanity. Raising the dead. One of the most famous miracles attributed to Apollonius is the raising of a young girl from the dead. According to Philostratus, Apollonius brought the girl back to life by touching her and speaking to her, although some accounts suggest she may have been in a deep coma rather than truly dead. Predicting the future, Apollonius was also credited with prophetic abilities. He reportedly predicted events such as natural disasters and political changes with remarkable accuracy. Telepathy and teleportation. There are stories of Apollonius demonstrating telepathic abilities, such as knowing the thoughts of others, and even instances of teleportation, where he was said to appear in multiple places simultaneously. These miracles, whether historical or legendary, played a significant role in shaping Apollonius' reputation as a divine philosopher and miracle worker. If you have more questions or want to explore another topic, feel free to ask.
Could you recommend a book I can read about his teachings?
Certainly. Here are a couple of books that delve into the life and teachings of Apollonius of Tyana. Life of Apollonius of Tyana by Philostratus. This is the primary source of information about Apollonius. Philostratus' biography, written in the early 3rd century CE, provides a detailed account of Apollonius' life, travels, and teachings. The Loeb Classical Library Edition, translated by Christopher P. Jones, is highly recommended for its comprehensive notes and accessible translation. Apollonius of Tyana, the Philosopher Reformer of the 1st century AD by G.R.S. Mead. This book offers a thorough exploration of Apollonius' philosophical and spiritual teachings, placing them in the context of the broader religious and philosophical landscape of the time. Mead's work is well regarded for its scholarly approach and insightful analysis. These books should provide you with a solid understanding of Apollonius' teachings and his impact on ancient philosophy and spirituality. If you have any more questions or need further recommendations, feel free to ask.
So, in summary, if you don't care about Jesus, you don't believe in Jesus, if you feel that Jesus' teachings on some level are immoral, or like you have a problem with, biblical theology or biblical ethics, especially in the New Testament, if you ain't down with that, there is an alternative.